folks? Happy Monday. Hope you had a good weekend. I am ready to get back to work. I am jacked up on caffeine. So let's get jumping in here. Shall not be a dull week. Shall not be a dull week. It is monthly expiration on Friday. So we'll talk about the potential for some pinning action. It's also the week before Christmas. So for those of us that haven't done our shopping yet, we got to get rocking here. And then you have the final Fed meeting of the year on Wednesday. So shall be interesting. Per usual for me, ignore the news, ignore whatever is taking place out there in this world of ours, and just focus on structure. So in terms of structure, we'll start here with the weekly charts. We'll work our way down to the daily. But the S&P 500, actually, we can just look at a daily chart. Here's your clear level of resistance. So for your S&Ps, let's take a look here. We have squeezes on the daily, the 4-hour, the 30-minute, the 15-minute, and the 5-minute. So a whole bunch of squeezes setting up here. And momentum is looking pretty decent. I think what you want to do here early this week is dial it down to the 4-hour chart. We're trying to break out here. So I think it's a question of whether or not does that 4-hour squeeze fire to the upside. And if you look at it from this perspective, the market pulls back to this white line right here, which is the weekly 21. So we pull back to the weekly 21, and then we make a straight shot right towards key resistance. By the time we reach resistance, we've already made a pretty big move. The market loses a little bit of steam there. So I actually like that we don't break out initially. We come in a little bit. Market's taking a breather here, but then you get your 4-hour, your 30-minute, your 15-minute squeezes. So now we're building up energy on that next potential push into resistance. You got a full gas tank, as opposed to back here, you've kind of used up the full gas tank, so to say, by the time you're trying to break out. So there's your key level. Could this be a choppy week with the Fed potentially? Could it be a choppy week with monthly expiration potentially? Not just this week, but December into January. There is a good structure here for a nice push towards the upside. So the S&Ps are looking pretty sharp. And for the Qsters here, you have a daily squeeze, a 4-hour, 30-minute, 15-minute. And if we check momentum here, no more red 10x bars. Definitely a start, but same discussion here. If that daily squeeze can fire to the upside into the end of this month, into January, we have the structure here for another push towards all-time highs. Get the weekly stacked DMAs, daily stacked DMAs. We got the green 10x bars. So all the structure looks good here. Not so much in the small caps. But yeah, this still looks pretty nasty. So I think the S&P and the QQQ can rally, into new highs here without crazy strength in the small caps. If the small caps could at least, say, get back above the 21 EMA, kind of stop the bleeding here, I think that does the entire market a lot of favors. So if you look at the S&P as kind of the body of the market, the Qs look good. If you look at the Dow here, Dow's shaping up pretty good. Stacked DMA, some green 10x bars. So the infection, so to say, to the body of the market is definitely the small caps. So if, IWM, RTY, if they can just get back above the daily 21, just kind of take a chill pill, I think that does the market a lot of favors. But aside from this stinker right here, S&P looks pretty good, QQQ looks pretty good. And then if we go jumping sector to sector, one of the most important things that happened last week, was your energy, your healthcare, a lot of different sectors did a really good job of trying to rebuild that daily chart. So I'm going to probably focus, on the Qs. Probably going to focus on the semiconductors. But if we jump sector to sector here, check out healthcare. Healthcare looks like it's going to fire the daily squeeze to the downside over here. You're back above your 21. You have stacked DMAs. And there's a big whopping weekly squeeze here. So there's some good looking structure. If we flip over here to energy, back above the daily 21. You got the stacked DMAs back. 3-day, daily, 4-hour, 2-hour, 60-minute, 30-minute squeeze. So it's probably not going to be my major focus here, but it definitely does a good job at trying to regain some structure. How about the industrials? XLI. The industrials are just puking. And now you're back in a daily squeeze. Actually, no daily squeeze just yet. But a lot of different sectors here are doing a good job of getting back on their own 2 feet. The utilities right back. The financials doing a decent job here. But if you look at a lot of weekly charts, if we look at a weekly chart of the S&P, we can kind of see that potentially at this point, it is looking like all that flush was the dip to the weekly 21. And for the QQQ, it's looking like potentially all we did there was pull back to the weekly 21. But then if you look at, say, healthcare. For healthcare here, it's very much the same thing. You dip to the weekly 21, you hold support. Now you have a really bullish weekly squeeze. Energy had a pretty ugly daily chart, but it pulls back to the weekly 21. The industrials, if I'm coming from here, we're kind of across the board. A daily chart on a 30-minute chart, things definitely lost, structure here. Momentum definitely shifted. The daily chart down to your 5-minute chart took a pretty good whooping here. But from a bigger picture perspective, everything kind of came back towards the weekly 21. And not just your QQQ, not just your semiconductors, but now we're seeing energy, healthcare, starting to see a few different sectors here. Looking like it's pretty much the same thing across the board. Dip to the weekly 21, rebuild the daily chart, then you're looking for the push into the highs. So that's what I'm going to continue to watch for here. And in terms of some good-looking spots, as good as the Qs look, pretty much your Apple and your Microsoft show. So for, for Gapplebees here, at this point, extended. So the easy swing trade is back here. At the 21, you take profits into the strength. At this point, you're going to try to dial down your time frame to a 30-minute chart, maybe a 15-minute chart. You're looking for continuation. So I think you scale down a position size. You're going to look for that next, 30-minute squeeze. And if you're looking for higher prices, that's where you're looking to jump in, the lower time frame squeeze. Apple is so strong here. There's not a single squeeze on any time frame, from a weekly down to a 5-minute. So it's so strong, hasn't even taken a breather on a 5-minute chart. So there's your leadership. As good as it looks, and I think you got, you might have 185 in this thing. Doesn't really offer the best entry. Then you look at Microsoft here, and again, there's the perfect entry at the daily 21. However, I think Microsoft gearing up for a push here into 350. And what could be interesting this week is with monthly expiration, maybe Microsoft is setting up for a pin at 350. Ignore the fact it's monthly expiration, though. Daily squeeze, weekly and daily stacked DMAs and green 10x bars, and pretty good looking 4-hour squeeze. So we're going to open up 343-ish. I'd love to see a little dip. It's not the best entry, but I think into monthly expiration here, trying to work something into 350 might not be a bad little weekly trade. So for example, there's a few different things you could do. You could buy, let's see, the 350, 345, 355. You could do a butterfly at 350. There's going to be your best risk reward. Ideally, you get Microsoft closing around 350 into Friday. Then you could do, let's see, a 345, 340 put credit spread. Not as good of a risk reward ratio. coming in at about 1-to-1. However, if it rips into 360, you're in good shape. Where the butterfly, ideally, you're going to pin around 350. So there could be that opportunity for a move into Friday, into the end of this month, into January, if this could come in just a little bit. I think it serves a pretty good spot for a swing into the end of the year. So Microsoft looks pretty good. And then I do think Google, you dip to your weekly 21, you rebuild the daily chart. Pretty good looking stuff here. And it's a total squeeze fest. Weekly, 3-day, daily, 60-minute, 30-minute, 15-minute. So you can see the histogram is starting to turn yellow on the daily chart. Momentum trying to shift. You have stacked EMAs. Check out the 3-day, though. Really good looking 3-day squeeze. Positive histogram, stacked EMAs, and then the weekly. So keep in mind, Microsoft, even Apple, Google, Tesla, whatever the name may be, NVIDIA, AMD, market breaks down, they all break down. So Microsoft has a great looking chart. Google has a great looking chart. I continue to like, though I don't think it's ready just yet, I continue to like the Amazon weekly squeeze. So there's a lot of good looking charts here. There's NVIDIA, there's AMD, but then you have healthcare, then you have energy. Everything is kind of setting up in a squeeze here. Potentially just take consideration doing your trade on the S&P or on the QQQ. Just be a little bit careful where you don't want to wake up and you have calls in Google, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, NVIDIA. It's basically going to be the same move here. So if this is trading up at 415, Microsoft, Apple, Google, they've all probably made pretty good moves. So just keep that in mind. And you can buy every tech stock, just position size appropriately. A little bit of Apple, a little bit of Microsoft, a little bit of Google. There's nothing wrong with that. You start slinging 10% risk at each of them, that's where things can get a little bit hairy. So you could just trade the QQQ, but I think Microsoft, I think Amazon eventually, and Google relatively soon, all shaping up pretty good here. Then you got the semis, weekly, daily stacked EMAs, and green 10x bars. So she's looking pretty bullish. Daily squeeze, 4-hour squeeze. So you could trade SMH. You could trade NVIDIA. I think you could pick up some AMD here above the daily 50. Again, you just don't want to wake up and all of a sudden you got AMD calls, NVIDIA calls, Broadcom calls, AMAT calls, Micron calls, and the market's rolling over. So Micron, AMD, NVIDIA, the whole gang here, they should be trading higher. QQQ can fire its squeeze, and then SMH fires a squeeze. Outside of tech and semis, though, got a couple for you here. So we worked a few initial positions here in Roblox last week. A little bit of January expiration in the options room, and a little bit of February expiration in my mastery. So big initial push here. You come back to the 21. So the big question is this stock trying to get into trend? If it's trying to get into trend here, and pretty much what that means is over the course of several months, the path of least resistance is to the upside. And we're going somewhere too, not sideways chop. So after a big push like that, and then the reversion to the mean, if this is truly a stock trying to get into trend, I don't think you should end up under your 50 in your weekly 21 EMA. So to go out to January, to go out to February expiration, there's some pretty good premium here on the put side. So you can put credit spreads with short strikes at 105, 100, maybe even a little bit lower. I like these kinds of set it and forget it trades, but you're doing it because of the structure. So we don't want to come in here and just start to sell credit spreads on anything. We want to try to sell credit spreads or buy your debit spreads or buy your calls or buy your equity. We're trying to do that when we think the odds are stacked in our favor, that it's gearing up for a bigger than expected move. And I'm looking for 3 ATR, which is about 150. you find the setup, then you take your weapon of choice. But I think in terms of set it and forget it, check out January and February monthly expiration. Pretty good premium there on the put side. Pretty good liquidity, I think, on the call side as well. So she looking pretty good there. And let's see, guys. There's just a lot of good-looking names here. Right? I'll go through a bunch of them. If you see anything you like, jot it down, as they say. ADP is pretty clean. Ford, who would have thought? Not the hero we wanted, but maybe the hero we needed. CME looks good. Regeneron, Roblox. So the scan we're working on here, pretty fire. Pretty fire. Looking forward to being able to bring this to y'all. But that's what I got, guys. Right, quick recap here. That monthly expiration, you got JP. Just bigger picture thinking the stage is set here for another push towards the upside. Daily squeezes, 3-day squeezes, weekly squeezes. So all that changes under the weekly 21 EMA. But that's what I got for you here, guys. I'll flip into the chat, start to take any questions. But do be open-minded to some pinning action this week. Microsoft 350, that kind of sounds a little sexy. Maybe an NVIDIA pin at 300. But keep in mind, it's monthly expiration. We could rock it this week. We could roll over. Anything, as they say, is possible. But that's what I got for you guys. Let me answer some questions here. I got to be in the options room in about 15 minutes. All right. Yeah, Eli, so in terms of Google, it rolls over and just bombs if the market rolls over and bombs. Market doesn't do that. I think another one here, again, the stage is set. Daily squeeze. Very good looking 3-day. And you have your weekly. The only toughie with Google is the spreads on the options are a little bit, just a little bit iffy sometimes. But in terms of the trend, to me, it's one of the better looking setups in the market. So I think that weekly squeeze at some point gets you up here towards 3,200. No chance of that happening if the QQQ and the S&P end up breaking down. But if the overall trend continues, that's the pitch. That is the pitch. So, Phil, in terms of FOMC this week, and to be honest with you guys, if I wasn't in Simpler, where I get the opportunity to work with and listen to some pretty smart folks on a daily basis, I probably have no clue when the Fed was coming out to speak. So for me, again, structure over everything. So if we continue to daily squeeze this week and everything just kind of holds up, then to me, there's no real reaction here from the Fed. I don't need to quite know what they're communicating. The price action is going to tell me. If we end up under the weekly 21 EMA, okay, now I got a pretty good gist. Whatever JP said kind of tickled the beast. Now we're losing structure. The reason to me that's important is I don't want to get shaken out of trades this week. I don't want to get pulled into trades this week. I want to make every decision based on, the chart in front of me. She'll let us know. He or she, whatever you may view the market as, will let us know. And really, I don't know what the market would like to hear him say. I don't think they want him to backtrack. I don't know what they're asking for from the old man. Eli, is Goog and Google the same? Yeah, daily squeeze. Yeah, pretty much the same. Pretty much the same. I think a lot of us tend to trade Goog with an L. Clean trading. What's up, brother? All right, Robert, what you got here? SMH, TXN Squeeze Fest. Do you like the structure for TXN? So just remember that if the SMH rockets, a lot of the names in SMH should perform pretty well. I do like your daily squeeze here. We have green 10x bars. I'm sorry, we have squeezes on a weekly chart down to a 30-minute. So this can lead to some powerful stuff here. However, just one thing to take into consideration, we're probably looking at TXN right now because SMH is setting up. There's a big difference here between the trends. SMH is very much in trend. Where TXN here, you know what? It's not too bad. You know what I'm thinking of? I'm thinking of TSM. Yeah, I'm thinking of this squeezer right here. So not to the same extent. Only point I'm trying to make here is kind of been generally sideways for the last 8 or so months here in TXN. Your SMH is a bit more trend. So just take that into consideration. In other words, AMD might move a little bit more with SMH. NVIDIA might move a little bit more with SMH. But if SMH goes for it, everything has a pretty good chance of going for it. So in terms of TXN, it's just a matter of, hey, do we have a good looking chart here? You've got a weekly with stacked DMAs, green 10x bars. You got a daily squeeze. So it all shapes up pretty good here. But I think the daily chart lets us see it a little bit better. NVIDIA's really in trend here. TXN. A bit more consolidative. So at least just keep that in mind. If anything, TXN's probably a better candidate for put credit spreads, where in NVIDIA, there you might try to work something a bit more directional. Yeah, Kay, so I got a few positions here in Tesla that expire Friday. And to be honest, I wouldn't add any new exposure here on Tesla. Let me get rid of all this crap here. Until you're getting a couple of closes back above the 21 EMA. So compare this to Google and Microsoft. No stacked EMAs, red 10x bars on your daily, your 2-hour, your 60-minute, your 30-minute. So for the purposes of the few trades that I have open, and any new trade on Tesla that I'm trying to work, I want to see it closing above the 21 EMA this week, which is an average true range move. So it's basically, hey, if Tesla can wake up, put its pants on, and put in a day of work here, you're back above your 21. That starts to try to, I don't want to say fix the chart, but it should shape up a little bit better. You should start to get a bit more bullish momentum. So that's kind of what I'm looking for here this week. Again, monthly expiration. Do they pin it at 1,000? Do they pin it at 1050? Do they pin it at 1100? It could just roll over and die. It could explode. That's what I'm looking for, though. Can we get back above the 21 EMA this week? Can we stay above the 21 EMA into Friday? At which point I'll be able to take profits on my current positions, and then starts the process of, hey, can we start working another trade here for maybe January, February? And it's not Microsoft versus Tesla. It's just chart versus chart. Microsoft looks ready to go. Tesla's a little hungover here. Right, so Tesla spent a good month in Vegas back here, and it's just still trying to recover. That's pretty much what you got going on there in Tesla. All right, guys, we got pretty good time here. Angel, I think I've traded naked calls maybe once or twice this year. Once or twice. I've done debit spreads more often. One Star Inc. We didn't cover shop yet, but we can hit that one here. Kind of reminds me of Amazon. Where, let's see. Come on, shop. What's up here? There we go. Okay, so your weekly chart. Okay, that's not too bad, right? You're still squeezing here. You have stacked EMAs. That can lead to a good push. Where that typically leads to a good push is when you have a good-looking daily chart. So just compare even the histogram to the last time that weekly squeeze tried to fire. You had daily squeezes with positive histograms. You also had stacked DMAs, and you probably had a lot of green 10x bars. It's a little bit neutral right now. I think a couple closes back above the daily 21 EMA, that's where everything can start to shift. Right? So pretty much like we're right here right now. Daily squeeze kind of flirting with the idea of breaking down. If we can reclaim the 21 EMA, then momentum starts to shift back in the bull's favor. Then you got a structure to work with to try to get up and out of that weekly squeeze. So I'd be a little bit patient on the shopper here. So Midas, in terms of NVIDIA, what I would do here, I mean, here's your buy zone. Right? In terms of playing the daily squeeze, there's kind of your buy zone. I would be a buyer of NVIDIA all the way down to the 50 period, simple. Right? As we're trying to get daily trend going here, you should hold your 50. So to me, I think the easy trade here is if you're like me and you're comfortable with sitting through the 20-point pullback, give the trade plenty of time. So I'm probably going to go, you got all the time in the world here before earnings too. Yeah, so I'd probably do something like this. And hey, if it hits my target in 5 days, it is what it is. I'll give it more time than it needs. But I might go out here to February expiration. All right, what are we working with here? How much premium we got? Even out at 280, you can risk 320 to make about 200 per contract. Right? So you like that risk reward, or you start to work it in a little bit closer. Right, I'm going to go 300, 295. Well, now you got a nice $3 credit. Nice risk reward. So I'm going to give it 67 days. I'm going to sell my put credit spread. And then I'm probably going to do nothing unless it starts to trade under the daily 50. Really give the trend plenty of time and plenty of room. I think it gives you a better chance of catching the trend if it does continue. That's what I would look for here. If we're looking for a shorter term trade, something a little bit quicker, you're looking for a bullish 4-hour, 2-hour, 1-hour squeeze. Kind of like this. Stacked DMAs, positive histogram. That can be nice for a trade that lasts 3, 5+ days. Not quite the structure for that just yet. But it's an SMH thing. SMH goes down. Down goes the Vidster here. Midas touch. I like that. Hey, good morning, Michael. Starbucks. I think Henry's working a few trades on Starbucks in the options room right now. Let's see. Yeah, that bounce has got gamble written all over it. So for me, it's probably... The only thing I could think about doing here for now, and here's why. I'm not really going to look for a push like that just yet because we don't have the same criteria. So what do we have in common right now as opposed to back here? Well, we do have a weekly squeeze. We are holding at the weekly 21. The difference back here, positive histogram, you definitely had stacked DMAs. You might have even had green 10x bars. So I think this is building, it's a good structure. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months from now, if this doesn't break down, yeah, I think you're back up here at brand new all-time highs. Do I think that happens this week? It could. Momentum doesn't quite suggest that just yet. So if I'm going to look for a weekly squeeze that I think is, boom, locked and loaded, getting ready to go in the next 1 to 2 weeks, I'm probably going to go to a Google. positively stacked EMAs, green 10x bars, where with Starbucks, I don't know what earnings is, but let's see, 125. So on Starbucks, I'm going to go January expiration here. Probably going to start to sell some put credit spreads, and then maybe when the histogram's positive, there's stacked EMAs, there's more green 10x bars, then maybe you start to lean into something a bit more directional. Debit spreads, calls. So I would look at it as an early entry. I think it's trying to put in the chart that can take you back here. Just consider getting long now a bit of an early entry, which is just fine if you can take the right position size and if you can give your trade plenty of time. But there's the picture of a daily chart on that previous move. Just trying to get it going again. One I would actually probably take a look at on a dip to the 8 EMA or the 21. So I think slowly but surely, S-Bucks is gearing up here. All right, guys, we've got a couple more here. I don't want to be late in the options room. Palo Alto, 3-day, 4-hour, 60-minute, 30-minute squeeze, stacked DMAs. So I think that looks bullish. KW, I do not use a TTM wave personally. Bill wants to know if we can see VIX under 20, under 19 this week. I don't think before the Fed. I don't see volatility dying down, not to that extent, into the Fed. If anything, though, potentially afterwards, if all goes well, depending on how you're looking at things here. Then Brian, in terms of Tesla analysis for the today, you got to continue to hold your 50 here. Call it $1,000, call it your daily 50. You start to flush under that, and I kind of wish it happened the first time around. I think they're going to drive it and start to fill the gap. It could be higher after that, but in terms of a play for this week, you don't want to be on the wrong side of that if you're trying to get long. So I look for the 50 to hold. You got a couple of squeezes here. You got a 30-minute, which isn't the most exciting thing with red 10x bars almost everywhere. So for me, I think Microsoft is probably an easier play to the upside for the next couple of days here. Where for Tesla, it's a matter of come Thursday, Friday, can you be trading back above 1060, back above the daily 21? We'll do this before we wrap it up. I kind of like doing this every now and then. Come Thursday, Friday, can we have a better looking momentum picture? Get daily 2 hours, 60-minute, 30-minute red 10x bars. It's not going to get the job done. But all right, guys, I apologize. I couldn't get to everyone's questions. I got to jump into the options room in just about 30 seconds here. But I do wish you the best of luck today. I appreciate you spending about a good half hour or so, 40 minutes with me this morning, and we'll do it all over again on Wednesday. Go get them, trade smart. I'll talk to you guys soon.